astrology, and other divinatory arts are not a replacement or substitute for physical or psychiatric health care. If this is an emergency situation or you are in crisis, please do not defer your wellness to readings or horoscopes. Seek situation-appropriate, qualified assistance instead. Blessings and welcome everyone, Nico here, and in today's video we are going to be answering some questions that I have compiled into one question about how to get more accurate or specific readings with tarot. Now, I am actually answering the questions that have come from people who are tarot readers or people who are wanting to become psychic readers. However, this could also apply to those of you that are practicing with runes or ogham or oracle cards or any other kind of divinatory practice as well. It doesn't have to just be the tarot. And for those of you that are not interested in becoming readers, this could still prove to be rather insightful, especially if you are interested in learning, let's just say, some of the back of the house technique or some of the insights that go into how to get the job done well. Now, some of you may be going, well, Nico, what gives you the authority to speak on this particular matter? You've never had a psychotic break and tried to pass it off as a spontaneous Kundalini awakening or claimed to fight the forces of darkness with a Reiki certificate and a Vitamix machine. And you're right, I haven't, and I'm proud of that. I've actually been practicing this since the late 90s, and so I have a much more organic and much more true to form style of actually doing this art. And because we have seen sort of a weird confusion over how these arts actually work and a bit of a strange belief system against the idea of doing psychic predictive work, there aren't a lot of people out there that know how to do that or know how to make that something that they can call up on command. And that is what this video is all about. The thing about getting accurate and specific psychic readings is that you do have to understand that doing predictive work when it comes to any kind of divinatory practice is a school in and of itself. It really can't be mushed together with any other kind of priority when you are in that moment, when you are doing that reading. You gotta make sure that if you are looking to do more predictive and psychic work, that you are not doing something else or you are trying to do something else. When I do my readings for people, I am very, very clear about the fact that I'm doing this as a psychic. I'm doing this for predictive work. Mediumship may also come into a part of it because I am also a medium, and I do also mix this with astrology. But my work is not out there to be, say, a part of a healing art, and I don't do, any of those sort of like empathic, emotional dialysis readings either. I focus on getting predictions and delving into hidden information specifically. When you are going into this, you got to make sure that your work is not confused or you are coming into a situation where you are maybe trying to do too many things at once. Now, I am also going to come at this with the assumption that you already know how to cleanse your space, you've been reading for a little while, and you've been practicing, and you know the cards, and you know how to, of course, set your cards and set your reading in order to get started. I'm just going to skip all of the beginner stuff because you can find that anywhere, and you should be practicing already. So what do we do to get the most accurate and specific readings possible whenever we are reading for other people? Number one, get good questions. You have to know what you are talking about. When we are going into psychic work, we have to have our sights set on something. If you've ever gotten a reading with me, you've probably heard me say, tarot can be like a genie in a bottle. You get the answer to the question you made, or you get the answer to the wish you made the way you phrased it. And that is because how we set the intention, how we go about setting the stage for the examination matters. So if you're in a situation where you don't know what you're looking at, or the question doesn't make any sense, or maybe you didn't get a question at all and all you got was kind of a very vague snippet or an anecdote or a story or a purge, you are responsible as the reader for questioning that and going, look, I need something more specific. I need something to set my sights on. I do this with everybody that I have that kind of challenge with personally. It can be intimidating as a reader because sometimes you're afraid to come off insulting, or you may be worried that somebody's going to have a bad reaction, or maybe you're worried about challenging something that's been presented. But you know what? You're going to make up for it by doing a good job. When people order my products, and they schedule online, they have to fill out a form. And in that form, I say, please phrase your question, your intention as specifically as possible, and don't just leave anecdotes. I do leave a little bit of room for people to, expand if they need to expand a little bit. So if they feel like they do need to share some things, that they can. But I don't allow more than maybe 200 words. You have to make sure that your querent is giving you a balance, right? We can't just do a one-line thing which doesn't make any sense, or it's overly vague, or it's it's just not serviceable. But you also don't want to work with a ream either. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you're having a hard time getting specific answers or getting specific insights, it's either because the question is too vague and too nebulous and too cloudy and useless, or it is a long, rambling purge. I always tell my friends when I do readings for them, in real life, form a thought, get specific. And I've got plenty of friends here online as well. If they see this video, they will testify. They will say, no, Nico will say, we need to ask this question differently, or we need to ask a real question, or we have to take this, seriously, as opposed to maybe just doing a dump or treating it like a different kind of experience or a different kind of session. If you're going to be doing psychic predictive work, you have to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success and to get that success. Number 2, eliminate emotional distractions and control the emotional atmosphere. Your frequencies, your, radio tower, your spiritual signal has got to be free to work. If you are in a situation where environmentally, let's say you are doing a reading in a space where there are other people, I don't do parties anymore. That's kind of something I used to do, and I don't do gatherings like that anymore. But if you are in a space where you just need quiet on a social or emotional level, you need to be able to enforce that, because that is too dense. The energy is going to drown out important information that's coming your way. You also need to be okay with putting up extra boundaries between you and your querent if it seems like your querent is not letting you do the reading. And this can sometimes happen in situations where people that have no business, because of the state that they're in, getting readings, get readings, and they might be, not able to pay attention, they're not present, or they are emotionally or socially crowding you in some way. You need to be able to give yourself space to work. It will mess you up if you are trying to open up to these very subtle energies. You're opening up your fields, you're opening up, in order to get as clear information as possible. And then what happens is this emotional waste comes into your space. You're not going to be able to see anything, okay? It's like dumping a bunch of ink into a clear pool. You're not going to be able to find what you're looking for very easily. And so control the emotional atmosphere. It goes beyond simple spiritual protections and, and sage and incense and things like that. Because if your querent or the situation that you are reading is so emotionally volatile or so emotionally intense that, it's pulling attention and it's pulling focus from what we're actually supposed to be reading on. It's contaminating the reading. So it's going to be up to you to keep that under control and demand it stays under control. Number 3, lean into messages even if they don't make sense so that they expand. This is a bit of a mediumship tip as well. So those of you who are mediums or have noticed that your mediumship ability is turning on, sometimes information that we are getting in a session might not necessarily make a whole lot of sense. You might be looking at a card or you may get a flash of insight and it doesn't seem to fit the core story of what's going on. The more you actually lean into that, the more you investigate it, the more you pull back the layers, the more is going to flow forward. This is usually something that is trying to show up in the querent's life or has been present in the querent's life but has been overlooked, or could be a linchpin when it comes to maybe pulling an entire story together or creating a resolution or a big break or a big development in their story. However, sometimes these things are not showing up in a way that feels like they immediately fit. And so, as I said, you do have to lean in. You have to be able to go, okay, so I'm also getting this. I don't know why I'm getting this, but this is coming forward here. It's not super prominent, but it's super important. And you don't have to put it that way because it's going to look like you're selling something. And you know me, I'm not a huge fan of people making hard sells when it comes to spirituality. I think we should excommunicate them all. But it's definitely an opportunity for you to have a very profound breakthrough in a reading if you lean into messages that you might otherwise have been tempted to dismiss or overlook. Number 4, read the cards all at once before you break them down. Sometimes we miss out when we actually zero in too soon. And so say you are doing a spread like a Celtic cross and you are, reading for a client. If you are going to go over that one at a time, you might be missing the in-between. And the in-between is what matters when it comes to getting specific, accurate information. When I do, say, a Celtic cross reading for somebody or any kind of big spread for somebody, I tend to zoom out and actually do a quick speed read of every single card just to myself all at once to get a firm understanding of the situation, or I will read the spread, speed read it backwards, and then I will break it down one by one. That not only helps me to crystallize the intention, see the lay of the land for what it is, but then it makes the more specific information from individual cards or individual subjects pop out all the more. So don't just start reading one at a time, card number 1, card number 2, card number 3. Don't follow a linear process right out the gate. If you stay too slow and steady in that, you're going to end up eating up a lot of time in your session and you're not going to be able to get down to the meat and potatoes that you are supposed to be serving up. Also, don't forget the past. Doing predictive work for the future isn't just about always looking for brand new things. I've had plenty of situations with clients where sometimes it is something that they missed or overlooked, or it didn't make a strong impression on them, or it didn't seem to immediately affirm the circumstances that they were so focused on be the answer to a mystery or actually set a very positive chain reaction process in motion. And so when you are reading for people and it feels like they're stuck, or it feels like maybe a certain prediction isn't coming through, or even if you look into the future, you're seeing a lot of dead ends and no change, and it seems like the question is going nowhere, look into the past and see, okay, did they miss a turn? Did they miss an off-ramp? Did they miss an on-ramp? Is there something that's still in play that is still very valuable for them them to be able to embrace. Sometimes it requires sending the client home with a bit of homework, especially if they maybe weren't paying attention or they can't recall something immediately. That is okay. Remember, you are not a therapist. You are not coming in as a therapist. Tarot readings are not a substitute for that. They can do some homework, and believe me, it's very cool to see what happens when we kind of go back and see, oh, right, yeah, there was an off-ramp a couple of weeks ago. Or yes, that thing that person said 6 months ago is still in play. Or yes, I did go and reactivate the situation. Or I did go restart this. And oh my God, it just a whole world opened up. People will definitely be happy for that information, and so you have to be okay with looking at the past every once in a while as well. And if you can do all of that, and if you can keep all of this in mind, you are going to have way more accurate and way more specific readings. Okay, that's just what I've got for you here in this little chat. And we'll probably come back with more too. And if you have extra questions, if you want to come back and ask more questions, or if anyone else wants to ask questions, leave them in the comments in the down bar below. I would love to maybe come back and talk a bit more about tarot technique, especially when it comes to doing psychic and predictive work. So thank you so much for dropping by, everyone. I know this was just sort of a super casual little chat for you. I'll be back with more here shortly. I've got a couple of other questions I want to make videos for. If you did enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe. You know I appreciate it. And of course, engagement helps this channel out a lot. And if you ever do want to get a session with me, you can go on ahead to my website. It's integrativemysticism.com. And if you can do all of that, and if you can keep all of this in mind, you are going to have way more accurate and way more specific readings. Okay, that's just what I've got for you here in this little chat. And we'll probably come back with more too. And if you have extra questions, if you want to come back and ask more questions, or if anyone else wants to ask questions, leave them in the comments in the down bar below. I would love to maybe come back and talk a bit more about tarot technique, especially when it comes to doing psychic and predictive work. So thank you so much for dropping by, everyone. I know this was just sort of a super casual little chat for you. I'll be back with more here shortly. I've got a couple of other questions I want to make videos for. If you did enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe. You know I appreciate it. And of course, engagement helps this channel out a lot. And if you ever do want to get a session with me, you can go on ahead to my website. It's integrativemysticism.com.